Hello, this is Rama Lakshmi. Welcome to the Print's Page Turner. Where are Muslim women in India's parliament? A new book is forcing us to ask this question. The book is Missing from the House Muslim Women in Lok Sabha. It's written by Rasheed Kidwai, political historian and former journalist, and Asim Kumar Ghosh. Welcome, Rasheed. We're going to be talking about the invisibility of Muslim women from national conversations in India. Um, what is so compelling about this book? What is the urgency about this book in 2025?
Thank you, Rama. Thank you for your kind words. See, we must understand the parliamentary form of democracy is about numbers. It's about participation. So we have India. We have about 140 million people. The Muslim population would be about 15 to 16%. So women Muslims are about number of Muslim women is about 7.1% of 140 million people. So in that sense, it's a big number. It is bigger than some of the countries. Now, where are they? As I said, democracy is about numbers. It's about participation. It's about involvement. In our country, Rama, I always say, I mean, Prime Minister Modi had also said the glass is half full or half empty. My friend, a British journalist, had told me once, nothing is simple about India. Or another, again, his quote, whatever you say about India, the opposite is equally
Exact
true.
opposite is true.
So we have a very vibrant democracy, that kind of participation, 80% poll percentage of voting, and everyone participated in spite of those corruption charges, personal charges. But the number of women are just about 13-14%. And number of Muslim women, it was extremely glaring.
That's one thing the book actually reveals, which is from 1951, the first parliamentary elections, to now, there have only been 18 Muslim women who've been sent to Lok Sabha. That's like a colossal
And let me
absence.
come in. And out of those, 18 women, 13 or 14 are dynasts, second generation, third generation
Right.
dynasts. So we all are against dynasty culture. But imagine a scenario, Rama, if there was no dynasty, then perhaps the number of Muslim women would have been five.
Right, that's really shocking. It's a colossal absence, as I said. But you know what's more shocking to me from this book? That none of the five southern states, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Karnataka, Telangana, have sent even a single Muslim woman to Lok Sabha. Now, with all its high women's literacy, women in workforce in the South, and the secular social justice politics of the South, why does that politics keep letting us down?
So here, this is a very serious question you're raising. In the north and central and western part of India, you can say about communal bias and all that kind of things that are there, and they are to it's been there from so to
And
say time
women's
immemorial.
literacy and women's participation in
Precisely.
workforce is lower than the
So
South.
this is not about Congress BJP. It's
Yeah.
also about regional parties. Now regional parties, Rama, is very interesting. Well, we have DMK, zero. AIDMK zero, and you have Trinamool Congress, TMC, led by Mamta Banerjee, which gives actually 38% of tickets to women participants or women candidates, and there you see a lot of women, Muslim women MPs have made it. So it's also got to do with region and the kind of political culture they have. I think in southern India, one of the major, I mean, one should not be saying southern India because every state has its own identity. See, look at Kerala. You see, it is Indian Union Muslim League. It's also a story of patriarchy and that kind of dominance. So the IUML is unlikely to field a woman candidate, or Asaduddin Owaisi's party, or a DMK. Now, all these things, there is a lot of questions. It's actually quite mind-boggling. It requires a kind of anthropological or
Sociology.
multidisciplinary approach to decipher it.
Yeah, political sociology. And the book says that oftentimes the male is seen as the true representative of Muslim politics in India and not the female. Can you unpack that a bit?
Yes, yes, absolutely. You look at any kind of succession story in any so to say political family. It is that is the male side that dominates. The famous case I have mentioned in passing, of course, is about Begum Akhtar Jahan, that Sheikh Abdullah's wife. There was a tussle between Farooq Abdullah on one side and that Sheikh Saab's daughter Khalida and her husband, that GM Shah. So that Mother Akhtar Jahan, and she supported son. first male child. So this is a kind of thinking. Of course, I would say politically speaking, what she did was right, and in a way justifies, because it's one state where there have been three chief ministers of a family, unique record actually. Sheikh Saab was the prime minister, chief minister of Kashmir, and so was Farooq Abdullah, and now you have Omar Abdullah. So it plays. So sometimes women also perpetuating that. So again, it's a case of a kind of political sociology needs a deeper study.
Right. Um, you have some fascinating stories in the book. Tell us the story about the national flag. Not many people know that the national flag was designed by a Muslim woman. Can you tell us that?
Yes, yes, yes. A very famous Laila Tayyib ji. She had designed that national flag, and Jawaharlal Nehru actually greatly liked it. Actually, if you look at the contribution of Muslim women, on the one side, as I said, nothing is simple in India, and whatever you say about it is true. That applies to Muslim women also. There are a lot of contribution they have made. There was just one person who was there in Constituent Assembly, one Muslim, Muslim woman, that her name was. Uh, Qusia Ejaz Rasool. So Mrs. Ejaz Rasool made a lot of impact. In fact, she later came to Rajya Sabha, and she wrote a book also called From Parda to Parliament. And Rama, there used to be fatwas that don't vote for non-Parda women. Not only Muslim, even non-Muslim. So this is a kind of patriarchy that societies are faced, and that is where I think it's easy to criticize. But then a lot of political parties actually they look at vulnerability factor.
Right. Tell us about coming back to the national flag, the design, the
So
Suraya
the
Tayyab.
national flag was designed, and it was greatly appreciated. But a lot of people do not know about this fact, that it was designed by
What
a
did she
Muslim.
change? What did she change in the national flag?
I think she got all those these things about in our national flag. If you look at that chakra, in that there are this thing that has got to do with Buddhism. So I think it was her idea of sort of showcase India's religious plurality and coexistence, and also she did that. And I think the ease at which was acknowledged and accepted. This also tells you, Rama, a lot of thing about what it was 75 or 80 years ago and what it is today. So instead of progressing in terms of having a a more liberal attitude, we have actually become more conservative and intolerant.
Rashid, you live in Bhopal. Bhopal for 100 years has been ruled by women, begums, women sultans as they call themselves. And there's this fascinating character in his book called Mehmuna Sultan. She was an MP, and like many others in that family, they removed their surnames. That was the male surname. They assumed the surname of Sultan. And she comes into parliament and she raises really important questions about Pakistani weapons found in Kashmir, the Tashkent Agreement, the Chinese intrusion into Indian land. She's really this trailblazing woman, and especially in foreign policy. She was looking after the foreign policy department in the Congress party. Tell us about her meetings with Tito from Yugoslavia and Brezhnev from Soviet Russia.
Oh, very interesting. I think you've gone word by word, line by line. So it's a fascinating story. And Rama, actually, I'll make a one general comment that about the Muslim women MPs. While researching for this book, me and my co-author Ambar Ghosh, we realized the kind of diversity it had. Like today, if you look at the member of parliament, the kind of questions they ask is largely about their constituency or their state. And here was a thing where there was a lot of internationalism was there. What was going on in Uganda, what was happening in Kenya, what was happening in Indonesia. All these things have been taken in account by Muslim women, and this we're talking about roughly 50, 60 years ago. So this is something which is very, I would say, refreshing. Now coming back to that, so Jawaharlal Nehru was also a very good, what do I call it, a headhunter. So he goes to Bhopal, and he knew Maulana Azad, and Maulana Azad's the two sisters used to stay there, and there he meets this I would say young girl, Maimuna Sultan, and he thinks that she has a potential because she was a graduate of English literature, very articulate, not from a political family. At that time, Rama, there was a choice. I mean, some people were saying that Nawab Iftikhar Ali Khan Pataudi's wife, that being Saida Sultan, who was the first, so to say, post-independent ruler, woman ruler of Bhopal, she should be given ticket. But Nehru negates that. Mansur Ali Khan's Tiger Pataudi's mother, she is denied ticket, and this Maimuna Sultan, not Sultana. and she is given ticket, and she wins. And then Joseph Tito comes to India, and Jawaharlal Nehru said, why don't you go to Bhopal and see? And she takes him to Chiklod Koti of Patodi. This thing, it is just an outskirts of Bhopal, and there Mr. Tito says that he wants to hunt. I mean, this was in 1970s, the environmental laws came in. So this was before that. And Rama, I know it's not going, it may put you off, but basically, he holds a gun and he shoots two Barasinghas. And the Barasinghas were within hours, they were there on his dining table. So, and then Tito said that when he went to Chiklod Koti and, the suburbs of Bhopal, it made him realize of his farmhouse in Yugoslavia. So he became a bit nostalgic, and he built a, instant
So
repo.
Memuna took him
So
on this
Memuna,
hunt.
so what I'm saying is there is a contribution of a Muslim woman parliamentarian in terms of international, that a world leader comes of a Tito's stature, and he was a personal friend of Nehru, a towering figure of that non-aligned movement as we understand of 1950s and 60s, etc. And he gets very impressed by not only India but the kind of political system, the status of women and Muslim women. So, and similarly, the same, impression President Brezhnev of USSR had when he came, and by that time, Maimuna Sultan was heading the Foreign Affairs Department or cell of the International Congress, and he thinks that the Muslim women in India are better off than Pakistan or a lot of these what we call it a Central, Asian countries. You have visited some of them. I don't know whether you will agree with Brezhnev or not, but this is so. Here I am saying Muslim women were able to showcase, India's plurality, the strength of democracy and participation.
Yeah. And what's interesting is some of us who are of a particular vintage, we know the Doordarshan newsreader Salma Sultan, the one with the rose in her hair. She was Maimuna Sultan's sister, and that I found that in this book. So that was
Yeah,
quite
yeah, yeah, yeah.
fascinating.
And Salma Sultan was always in awe of her, sister,
Sister.
and she used to think that most people, as you say, the entire generation has been admirer of Salma
Salma
Sultan,
Sultan.
but Salma Sultan had a lot of admiration for her elder
Right.
sister.
You earlier spoke about dynasty and how if it wasn't for the dynastic women politicians, the number would be even less, maybe five. He said instead of 18. 18 itself is a horribly low number.
Out of 690 MPs, women MPs who've been elected.
Right. It's just 18. Um, so how should we look at it? Whether it's Hindu women or Muslim women, Sikh, anywhere. In India, women's entry into politics is usually from the family route, right? A male member is denied ticket, gives it to the woman in the house. A male member has a tragic accident, tragic death, the woman steps up. So this is kind of a rite of passage for many women politicians in India. It's not just for Muslim women, right? So how should we look at it? Should we look at it as, what the younger generation call the Nepo gang? Should we look at it as an unfortunate thing? Should we just look at it as a rite of passage? Or should we look at it as a competitive advantage? Or does it tell us a larger story about party politics in India that will not give first entrant women tickets?
Yeah, and I think Rama, that's the last thing that you have said is very important, and it needs to be. It's not about political parties and political leaders; it is society. So there is a colossal amount of indifference towards women in general and Muslim women in particular. We keep talking about triple talaq and the way the Muslims so in Muslim society women suffer and they face all kind of challenges. But when it comes to providing them some kind of relief, we don't look beyond dole or kind of tokenism, and all political parties including the BJP is are responsible for it. So Rama, we must look at the kind of bench strength in any political party. How many women, Muslim women ticket aspirants have been there? Very few. If there are two aspirants, like you look at Trinamool, Trinamool fields two Muslim women candidates this time, both of them win. Or you look at the track record of Trinamool, it has that kind of political heft, and so to make any person win, you look at the case of Yusuf Pathan. Again, from Gujarat, he goes and contests in Bengal and wins a lot of these without knowing word of Bangla language, not Bangladeshi language, Bangla language. So the point I'm saying is political parties don't have sort of much bench strength. There are not many aspirants who are seeking ticket, because as you're saying, people come from as a wife, daughter, mother
Sister.
of some political person, and then it's far more easy for them. So we need to, I have done a study on about how elections are, how much of money is spent. So a lot of money is spent in elections in about seeking ticket. So in that, the Muslim level is very little. Muslim women participation is very little. And considering there have been Jayalalitha, who was the supreme leader of AIDMK, Mamata Banerjee, supreme leader of TMC, with a very good track record as far as women and Muslim women are concerned. You have Sonia Gandhi and you have Mayawati. So all women are holding, very powerful position. Again, I'm saying, it's like, the glass being half full, half empty. And this is a real tragedy, because a lot of people think politics is not good, and politics is not for women, politics is not for Muslim women. But let me tell you, Rama, when I was researching this book, I realized 18 of them, and some of them served 2 3 terms, 3 4 of them became ministers. Not one ED case, not one CBI case, not one corruption against anyone, except I think there was some case which is, I would say, politically inspired against Rani Nara of Assam.
Assam.
But they've been, kind of, no, there's no hate speech, no case of hate speech, no toxic kind of thing. So what I'm saying is, this is women presence, and I said Muslim women presence. It will be a very welcoming thing in our political thing, particularly when political parties are talking about 33% reservation and participation.
Yeah. I look at this whole dynasty debate, especially when it comes to women from panchayats to parliament, I look at it very differently. Um, there's always a first generation of leaders that enter politics, and they may enter it through the family route, but they kind of hold up an optics that's important for young women who are growing up, young women who do not have the policy. So that optics is very important. That visual lineup of women, whether they come from family privilege, doesn't matter. The fact that they got there, then build on it. So for young women, they need role models, and whether that role model is going to come through families, the first generation is always going to be like that. So a lot of times women politicians are criticized because they come from family and privilege. And in many of your profiles, I mean, this book is a fascinating collection of profiles of different MPs, Muslim women MPs. In many of these chapters, I keep seeing these words like, accidental, family, privilege, tragic, because there's often a tragedy that informs this. These words keep coming again and again and again. And, you understand the kind of circumstances that are propelling these women to come forward into politics. And yet, there is someone like Kaisar Jahan, the quintessential chai wala to parliament story that we associated with Prime Minister Modi. Well, there was the OG chai wala MP. Can you tell the viewers a
Yeah,
little bit
it's
about her?
very interesting, Rama. I think what happened in Sitapur, there was a local politician. Actually, he was a chai wala. His name was Jasmeer, and Jasmeer is spotted by, he gets into municipal this thing by the local this political dynamics, and he becomes a municipal corporator, and he does very good work in a place called Harpur in Sitapur district. And then Mayawati, notices him and gives him, MLA ticket, and his profession was chai wala. He was completely illiterate, in the sense that it took him for months and years to actually put his signature, learn how to sign. In his phone book, he still has all the numbers with a photo. So there is a, if he wants to look for Rama Lakshmi number, he'll have your a very glamorous picture of yours. Okay, so that kind of thing, was he. And one day, so he was MLA, and one day Mayawati calls, and with that time Mayawati was chief minister. 2009 Lok Sabha elections were around the corner, and she calls him, and he goes with his wife. They have a
His
uh,
wife is Kaisar Jahan.
Kaisar Jahan, and both had, tea from Sharma ji ki chai at Lucknow. And then they go to meet the chief minister, and chief minister looks at her, Kaisar Jahan, as you were saying, and says, "Tu ladegi." So suddenly she realized that why not, instead of him, it will be better to field,
The
a
chai
Muslim
wala's
woman,
wife.
yeah, chai wala's wife, and she agrees, readily agrees, and actually husband was also very supportive. It's not that they just come out of the tragedy. What you're saying, 80% of stories about which figure in this book, Missing from the House, are about people who became, after death of, let's say, President. Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad, his wife comes in after the death of Mickey Mia, the Begum Rampur comes in, Noor Bano, lot of it. But there are some, Rama, there are some exceptions. So in his lifetime, Jasbir and Kaisar both are alive and kicking, and so he gives her a chance to contest Lok Sabha, and she wins on a BSP ticket. And now, still, even now, I mean, he is MLC of Samajwadi Party. They husband wife they change a lot of political parties, but the chai wala background is very defensive about it. When I spoke to them, they were very defensive. Say, don't say about this chai wala story, but there is a chai wala story. So what I'm saying is, our society has a place. They were not very affluent. They were not very, I would say, come from a a kind of royal or a Nawabi background, etc. Yet people of Sitapur, sort of like them because they were able. They made a lot of investment in social work
And it
and good
took a
work.
Mayawati to recognize this talent.
Precisely. So there is a case. Such cases are there where people. And another case, Rama, I will tell you. It happened in Gujarat, 1962, when there is a Akbar Bhai is a Gandhian and he becomes MP in 1952 and 1957. In 1962, he died in 93, 94. So imagine 1962, he must have been very good and able-bodied. Then he decides that not me, instead of me, my wife, that was that Zora Ben Chawda, she contest election. Both of them were Gandhian social workers. In fact, Gandhi got them married, and so she gets elected. From where, Rama? It's very interesting. There's Zora Ben Chawda. She wins Lok Sabha election from Banaskantha in Gujarat, a tribal-dominated seat then and now. Now imagine Gujarat, a Muslim woman winning. It's a very redeeming thing. Again, I would say the past was very glorious in terms of democratic participation and the kind of attitude people had.
One is to get into politics, getting that entry level barrier sorted. How have these women performed in parliament once they reached?
I think some women, they did very well. They became cabinet ministers. They were sort of say, they changed the course of Indian polity. For instance, you look at Mohsina Kidwai in 1977. As we know, the Congress was totally wiped out, particularly from the North India. So she contests a by-election from Azamgarh and wins. And that led to, this was sometime early 1978, and that led to Indira Gandhi's great comeback. Swamiji was used to say, tell Indira Gandhi that you keep this woman, she's lucky for you. I'm not a believer, but I'm just saying that's how it works. So Indira Gandhi actually believed that Swamiji, and she always kept, her on her side and gave her a lot of positions and power. But what I'm saying is, these Muslim women have played a very big role, a very positive role in country's politics.
Yeah. You mentioned a book earlier called Parda to Parliament,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? So let's look at that, the trope of Muslim women and the veil, right? It's a global trope, and there's a lot of opposition to it, political opposition to it, and yet you have someone like Ikram Ikram Hassan
Yeah, yeah,
from UP,
yeah.
right? She jokingly says, look at Gujar women, look at Jat women, they also cover their head. And then she actually says in the book that my head cover is actually a secular, extremely secular gesture, she says, because she says, I don't want to be judged by how I look. Or what I wear. I want to be judged by my action. And in that, she calls it an extremely secular gesture. So you have that. And on the other end of the spectrum is the Madre
Madam Meherban.
Meherban of Kashmir, Sheikh Abdullah's mother, Begum Akbar Jahan. And she flings her parda
Yeah.
away, and she's doing work among refugees from Pakistan in refugee colonies and things like that. And Sheikh Abdullah writes that my wife turns her parda into a banner. So tell us about this whole trope of Muslim women and veils and how it worked for these Muslim MPs, Muslim women MPs in politics.
Yeah, so I think what the issue you have raised is very controversial, very
Yes,
political, and very, I would say, at some level, very messianic also.
yes.
Because in Quran, in Islam, it's about hijab. It's about, and it's not about hijab. It's about modesty, and that is applicable to both sexes. That men and women must not be very, so to say, in terms of extravagant with their, so to say, show of skin. This is a religious position, and it's applicable to both, but it's also about, it's a very nuanced kind of position. So there is no dress code as far as Islam is concerned. So many times it is imposed. So people who are in the political arena, they always face this challenge. The moment a Muslim woman comes in politics, the first thing is saying, where is your parda, where is your hijab? And that is something, becomes a very challenging position. But there is no consensus among Muslim scholars or Muslim societies. If you look at from the North African countries to South Asia to Southeast Asia, everywhere. So this is more like a political posturing, or a country, or a patriarchal instrument to
Control.
control and dominate and discriminate.
And yet, in the Kashmir chapter about Madre Meherban, you say that the head cover was not so much about religion, but it was about class. It was a marker of class. There are women of certain class and status who didn't have to come out into the public sphere to work. Didn't I mean they
Yeah,
wore it? So
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, it was
it
more of
was
a
a mark.
status.
It was a status and marker, and so it's that kind of flips the whole religious obligation argument, right?
Absolutely. And I think Muslim women who, go out, whether it was Begum Noor Bano or Rani Nara or Mohsina Kidwai or Begum Abda Ahmad, they were always very, I would say, well dressed, or for that matter, Iqra, in the sense that there is no question are asked about what they are wearing. And people, I'm talking about the masses, voters, whether the voters, as you know, are both Hindus and Muslims and of all classes and sort of economic strata and social status. So there is the least thing that comes. So it's a very, I would say, manufactured or a very curated kind of narrative that women need to cover their face, or that it's not at all important. It's all about cash and delivery, in the sense that how they're able to bring relief to society, because elected representative have a lot of responsibility. And that is where many Muslim women, when they were elected or during the electioneering, they did very well, and their track record is very good, because people don't discriminate then. I think it requires a bit of a courage on the part of political parties and individuals to start giving tickets to them. Once they're there, then they'll do a much better job than their male counterpart.
Right. In your research, what percentage or proportion of these Muslim women MPs were Ashrafs versus Pasmanda?
That's a very interesting question. I would say good 80% people, 100% where these things matter in sort of in northern India and many other societies. So I think good 80% of them were from, so to say, elite or upper caste.
Ashrafs.
The moment we talk about political dynasties and all, they come from politically, I mean economically, socially, they are well off. So therefore, it's very easy. Like I think in case of Zora Ben, she was of course came from very modest and Gandhian sort of league. Those God doesn't produce these kind of people now. So she was of course in a very different, no furniture. There was nothing. They had very. I mean, she was not. I have written that through quoted people who knew her well, that she would not project herself as a sort of Muslim woman. So religion was in the background of it, and it was not a talking point or a political issue as far as that Zora Ben was concerned in Gujarat. I keep emphasizing, because today when we talk about Gujarat, we have a very different perception, and even the ground realities are very different.
Many of the women that you have featured here in this book, they don't have any statues, no mention of them in textbooks. Books haven't been written about them. They don't feature in museums, for instance. They're not there in the public square. Their murtis. How difficult was it for you to research them, their work, their family lineage, and some of them you've spoken to? Tell me a little bit about the research of
Yeah,
that.
I think that's a very good question, because, and this is a real challenge. You're talking about public spaces, libraries, hospitals, statues, are not, being named after them, or there is no sort of, physical evidence of their existence. And
Legacy.
it's very tragic. I would say injustice also in a way. But more glaring is a lack of, even if you look at the parliamentary record, the only thing I could lean on was question answers. So I deciphered, and of course that was a useful thing, that what kind of questions they asked. But if you are a reader, you would know that I've used as a tool to sort of build their pen picture of the kind of questions they ask. But fact of the matter is there is no profile, monogram. Even in our in Rama, in your and our I feel in journalism, in media, very little write-ups are there or features are there. So total, that's what I'm saying. I talk about indifference. So indifference is not just about that Hindu Muslim, that communal bias, or that it is an indifference of that of the non-existent entities. They don't matter. They don't deserve to be there. I mean, some of them like Begum Noor and Mohsina Kidwai were very accomplished women. They are alive, and so they are in a way they are talked about. But there's absolute. There's no academic writing. There are no books. There are no sort of features on them, and some of them were very very interesting. And they made a lot of. I mean, you look at Rani Nara. She's been an all rounder.
Cricketer.
Played cricket and became a union minister, and a bit controversial also in her lifestyle, got married to a tribal king and all that, Bharat Nara. A lot of art problem with this, and imagine at one point of time she was equivalent if not ahead of Mr. Hemanta
Samantha.
Biswa Sarma. So I mean, I'm just saying, so in the party politics, she was important person, so was Begum Noor also. But point is, very little documentation, and Hindi media, the less said the better. Urdu media, I think there is no digital record of it. And again, Urdu media suffer from this, what I call it as that the patriarchy or
Male,
so.
male
So
politicians.
therefore, very little literature is available. It was big challenging for me, but that apart, I think it was very sad because we need to acknowledge their presence.
There's a double absence then. A,
Double. Look
they're
at Assam. I mean, Assam was producing, Muslim women MPs, in 1950s, in 1960s. First Muslim women MP actually came from Bhopal and Assam.
Mofida.
Mofida, and of course one from Bhopal. So first, Parliament didn't have it actually in 1951-52. And imagine Nehru being Nehru, he could not, get a Muslim woman elected. And in 5 houses of Parliament have been such. We like today we have in 18th Parliament. So in 5 times there was no Muslim woman in the house, and the number of Muslim women present in a house have never been more than 4 in one
Mm, mm.
house. So these are, you can go on. There are a lot of statistical record is there. Uh, and it's very sad, but what sad part is different. I think we need to ask ourselves, are what we are doing, is it right, is it fair? We all keep saying about the picture of talaq talaq nikah, that famous picture of Raj Babbar and Salma. This thing was there. So there is a lot of lip service to Muslim women, that Muslim women are ill treated. The society, Muslim society doesn't treat them well. Fair enough, but what about any kind of empowerment, or you bring this? I was just reading a study that the free ration is away from this topic, but free ration that is being given to women, it has strengthened them in that panchayat level or local level, or even in the within the sort of city family unit. It has given them some kind of sense of empowerment and belonging, because they are getting 300 3,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees as through various cash schemes. Now that has eluded the Muslim society.
That's why I think this book is also important, because that's what I call the double absence, which is one is the absence from the house, and then the absence from public records and historiography, right? From popular memory. So I hope this book is a beginning, and also I hope it propels people into a tighter and harsher scrutiny of our democratic process, especially at a time when hijab, triple talaq, and polygamy, and some of these issues that affect Muslim women is hot button issue today. But where are the women's voices, Muslim women's voices in these issues? So, like I said, nothing about us without us. Yeah, so we need to hear those voices when it comes to public conversations on these subjects. So, thank you for coming to the print and for this book.
Lovely talking to you, Rama. Thanks a lot. Thank you.